I pledge allegiance The prayer this morning will be offered by the good gentleman representing Baltimore County.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Please assume your preferred posture for prayer, meditation, or reflection. Let us pause to express our gratitude for the many things we have. Among them, today, we will have a warm room to sleep in, a full stomach, and those who love us around us. May we do everything in our power to ensure that others also have these most basic of creature comforts and more. Thank you.
Amen. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. There being 126 members present, the House is now in session. Clerk will read the journal from the previous day.
Annapolis, Maryland, February the 28th, 2024.
Recognizing the Deputy Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the journal.
To order petitions, memorials, and other papers. House resolution recognizing the gentlelady from Baltimore City.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, good morning. I am really proud and excited to recognize the 2024 Maryland School Counselor of the Year, Rhonda Waller. Ms. Waller is a school counselor at Benjamin Franklin High School in Baltimore City. She's worked with students at Benjamin Franklin for the last 13 years and has served Baltimore City students for a total of 24 years. We are so lucky to have her. Benjamin Franklin High School is located between Brooklyn and Curtis Bay, two neighborhoods in South Baltimore. School counselors play such an important role in our schools by supporting our students' academic success and well-being. Delegate Clippinger, Delegate Edelson, and I are really proud to recognize Ms. Waller, to salute and thank her for her service to our students, families, and community. She represents great school counselors all over the state. Please join me in giving her a warm round of applause.
Will the reading clerk please read the resolution in full?
Be it hereby known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Rhonda Waller in recognition of being named the 2024 Maryland School Counselor of the Year and your commitment to all of the students at Benjamin Franklin High School. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on this 8th day of March 2024.
Recognizing the gentleman from St. Mary's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, this morning in the gallery above us, I'd like to recognize a group of students from Chopticon High School in St. Mary's County. They're here to celebrate the U.S. Band's Maryland State Championship. Big thing, great thing for them, and I'm really proud of them. Permission to the delegates' names, please.
Permission granted.
On behalf of Delegate Matt Morgan, the other one, and Dr. Brian Crosby, today we're going to recognize on the House floor Riley Rollins, the band drum major, and the band director Cecilia Badavosky. Please join me in welcoming them here to Annapolis today.
Will the reading clerk read the resolution in full?
Be it hereby known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to the Chopticon High School Marching Band in recognition of becoming the 2023 U.S. Bands Group 1A Maryland State Champions. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on this 8th day of March 2024.
Message from the Senate, consent calendar number 15. Senate bills introduced in the House. The clerk will read the first bill and committee assignment.
Senate Bill 78, Senator Sidnor, Ways and Means.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of Senate Bill 78, be considered the reading for all the bills on the calendar.
Here are no objections. The bills are read the first time and referred to the appropriate committee. Report of the Committee on Economic Matters, report number 4. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 253, Cannabis Reform, Alterations, Favorable Amendments, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the chairman of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 alters the membership of the ATCC, alters reporting requirements, adds the specific duties of the advisory of the board on medical and adult use cannabis. It makes clarifying changes. Amendment number 3 strengthens ownership restrictions for licensees, extends a privilege to deliver medical patients through June 30th of 2025, extends by 1 year the build-out deadline for certain canopy expansions, allows certain violations for enhanced or non-conforming THC products to be charged by citation, updates tax provisions, and makes clarifying changes. Please move the amendments.
Question before the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. The question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 385, Wage Payment and Collection, Pay Stubs and Pay Statements, Required Information, Favorable Amendments, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 requires an employer to include additional information on pay stubs and pay statements, and the list of additional bases of pay, and requiring the Commissioner of Labor to create a pay stub template and make it available to employers at no charge. Amendment number 3 authorizes the Commissioner of Labor to issue an order for an employer that fails to include the required information on a pay stub or pay statement. It additionally clarifies that how an employer can respond to such an order, and the civil penalty, adjust the civil penalty amount. I move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Recognize the gentlelady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would the floor leader rise for a question, please?
Sure. Good morning.
Good morning.
Leader.
Good morning.
Thank you so much. So I read the bill and I read the testimony, and I'm not sure I'm understanding it correctly on the reprint. I see that there is a $500 per employee fine or fee that can be assessed, but there's no cap. And when I read the comptroller's testimony, she suggested putting a cap on that fine of $5,000. Did you not cap it for some reason?
We discussed extensively with the bill sponsor, and this version that you have seen conforms with the Senate version, which is to lower the amount of $5,000 to just $500.
But it's per employee.
Yes, it is. But the Labor Secretary and the department says they will do everything they can to first issue an order and give them 15 days to request a hearing and correct the action instead of just sticking the penalty. They could charge $1 or nothing.
Yes, but again, I guess let me circle back to my original question. Why did you not feel it was important to put a cap on it? Because at $500 an employee, if you have 10 employees, obviously it's $5,000, but if you have 100 employees, that's a significant amount of money.
The committee did not feel the necessity to go that far to cap it because we have already adjusted and lowered the civil penalty and struck out altogether the private right of action. If you looked at the original bill versus the bill before you, we already took out the private right of action.
Okay, thank you. I'll just be voting against the bill since I won't waste everybody's time by bringing an amendment to put a cap on it.
Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 397, Public Utilities Thermal Energy Network Systems, Authorization and Establishment, Working for Accessible Renewable Maryland Thermal Heat Warmth Act. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number, move so much to be considered reading the amendment.
So ordered.
First time this year. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 limits the pilot program to gas companies that serve 75,000 customers while allowing other smaller gas companies and utilities to submit proposals if they choose. Provides for cost recovery by the utility and protects participating customers if the pilot program is discontinued. Requires the pilot program to pursue available sources of federal and other public funding, requires supervising utilities to plan for certain MBE goals, and makes other clarifying and technical changes. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Weak aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 571, Family and Medical Leave Insurance Program, Modifications. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much to be considered reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 makes several changes, including authorizing a portion of the funds from the Family and Medical Leave Insurance Fund to award grants, adding contribution sources for the Family Fund, and changing the date that the Secretary of Labor must submit a report to the General Assembly to November 15th of each year. I move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 805, Cannabis Licensee Locations Restrictions. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 tightens the provisions relating to zoning for growers and makes technical changes. Amendment number 3 allows a political subdivision to extend the distance between dispensaries from 1,000 to 2,000 feet. Amendment number 4 establishes a process for filing a protest of license renewal with the Maryland Cannabis Administration. Please move the amendments.
Question before the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Recognizing the gentlelady from Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Floor Leader, there were a lot of zoning concerns about this bill, about some of the, and I know you addressed some of them in the amendments. In particular were child-centered nonprofits, YMCAs, any youth-oriented locations considered in this? Because you know my concerns about.
And we did as best we could. We actually added places of worship, but again, at some point we would just run out of area if it's at 500 feet from everything. So we kind of had to, leave a few things in there.
Absolutely, completely understand that. Would you be amenable to holding it for a special order for purpose of amendments, please?
Sure. Are we doing, Madam Speaker, are we doing Monday?
Well, since today is Friday and we're not here Saturday and Sunday. But let's do it Tuesday.
That would be wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The bill has been special ordered to the appropriate time on Tuesday. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 915, Workers' Compensation Uninsured Employers Fund, timely payment of awards, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Okay. Seeing none. Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 1296, Electricity Offshore Wind Projects, Alterations, favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 authorizes the Department of General Services to conduct an additional round of procurement for offshore wind energy under certain circumstances. Please move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendment is adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Recognize the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As we all know, the offshore wind has the most impact to my district. I'm asking if we could special order this and keep it in line with Tuesday, special order for Tuesday for the purpose of amendments, plural.
Committee chair.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Questions for the House is the special order HB 1296 to the appropriate time on Tuesday. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The bill has been special ordered. Special order calendar number 24. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 243, Property Tax, Tax Sales Revisions, favorable report is amended, adopted.
The maker of the special order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. All my questions have been answered.
Okay. Any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, it is ordered printed for third reading. Special order calendar number 25.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have 2 amendments at the desk. I'd like to start off with
House Bill 513, Motor Vehicles Work Zone Speed Control Systems Revisions, Maryland Road Worker Protection Act of 2024. Favorable report is amended and adopted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Cecil.
Yes, I have 2 amendments at the desk. I'll go ahead and start with 223822-1.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We had some good debate on this bill yesterday, and it does have a very expansive impacts to all our constituents, as was alluded to. This First Amendment is very simple in nature. It deals with the language that's outlined, and I will say that not being on the committee, it's probably unique that we're specifying a lot of what I'll just call contract language in law. However, this is impactful, and some confusion arrived yesterday when discussing the lines may be, and this dealt with the signage that indicates as you're entering this work zone what your actual speed is, and the purposes for these devices is to try to get you to slow down, and then also in knowing that there is a device ahead that could give you a ticket or infraction for speeding through that area. So to cut down on confusion, we contacted Bill Drafting, and this was their recommendation, not mine. Even though this specific paragraph refers to the signage being placed, replacing the words may be with is, we felt would be beneficial. We did have conversations with both the floor leader and the chair, as well as someone in the governor's office. They did state that this is a separate section. However, we believe that there was consensus from Bill Drafting that replacing this language would be of helpful nature. So with that, I'd move the amendment.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank the maker of the amendment for giving it to us ahead of time. I would ask the body to resist it. The amendment would change the current language. So what the current language is that when you're entering a speed zone, that a conspicuous sign is placed at a reasonable distance, consistent with national guidelines indicating that a speed camera may be in effect. So he's asking to change that, and we don't want to change the current practice. Thank you.
Maker on the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just ask that we push the amendment.
On the amendment, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Roll call.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will take the call. The amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title?
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Cecil.
Thank you. Second bite at the apple here. I have another amendment at the desk. Amendment number 473221-1.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a little bit more substantive. As we debated yesterday, some of these work zones, especially those around our city centers, are in a perpetual state of construction. We're not talking about weeks or consecutive months, we're talking about consecutive years. As a commuter in my other life outside of the General Assembly, drive through these and they seem to just kind of be forever, whether it's an HOV lane, whether it's bridge reconstruction, overhead passes, and the like. This amendment is fairly straightforward, and the impetus behind all of this is because we want safety. We want safety for our road workers, and we completely agree with that. However, there are many instances where there are no construction vehicles, there are no construction staff on the construction site, and these projects may go weeks or months without personnel there. They have this. We're all familiar with the staging barrels or cones. Yet we ride through and we don't see anyone. This amendment is all it does is it seeks to say that at least one worker is present on the roadway construction site, whether it be the median divider, the shoulder, or adjacent to the work zone, and that precursor would allow for the speed cameras to be there, to be into effect, to be taking pictures, and to issuing citations. We feel that this is in keeping with the spirit of this legislation as it seeks to protect construction workers, and we think it'll cut down on the confusion of when these zones are being enforced. Many times, middle of the night, As I alluded to yesterday, we'll have no construction going on, but yet these devices, these vehicles, we've seen them with the apparatus there in the front, flashing the camera, blinding drivers, yet no construction's occurring. So with that, I'd like to press the amendment. Thank you.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And again, I want to thank the maker of the amendment for giving it to us ahead of time. I want to remind the body a little bit of what we talked about yesterday as to why we don't want to limit it to just when workers are present. Work zones by nature present driving challenges. You've got narrowed lanes, you've got no shoulder, you've got lane shifts, you've got concrete barriers, split travel lanes, and more. So this is not only for the safety of the workers, but it's also for the safety of the drivers. In the last 5 years in Maryland, 49% of the fatalities occurred when workers were present, whereas 51% of the fatalities in work zones were when workers were not present. So for those reasons, I ask the body to resist the amendment. Thank you.
The minority leader.
Thank you. That's a sobering statistic, and I appreciate that. It really is. But I do think that we have to take into recognition the somewhat absurdity of it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and hopefully, anyone on the roads at that point in time are not under the influence of anything, and someone is driving and they're driving perfectly fine, and they approach a work zone. And, my friend from Cecil County talked about the urban work zones. I want to tell you a little bit about the non-urban work zones. For me to drive here to Annapolis from my home, I cross through 6 counties. I traverse 6 counties of the state on my way here. For much of that ride, I guarantee you that when I go home this afternoon, hopefully, Madam Chair of the Revenue Subcommittee, this afternoon, hopefully, when I return home, I will likely pass a dozen work zones. I would suggest to you that since I probably won't be driving too much of them till after 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday, there will not be a single worker, most likely, in any of those work zones. Some of them may be appropriate, and maybe there's a better way to do it, to say this one is a particularly high-volume road that we have a concrete berm and a barrier, and we have the authority to go ahead and set the speed camera and make it exist at all times. I'm going to pass ones today where your work zone is this. It's 12 orange barrels on the side of the road where yesterday the work crew was cleaning up something on the side of the road, and today it rained, and so nobody came up and cleaned out the barrels because they don't work in the rain. I don't say that to be rude. I represent highway improvement contractors in my life. Good people. They don't work in the rain. A little bit of rain comes, that's an off day. That's built into the contract. And so if it rains today and I leave the barrels up and I'm driving through it at 6 o'clock at night and I'm over the speed limit, I'm going to get an enhanced fine and a penalty. That doesn't make any sense. There's a better way to do it. I think that the gentleman from Cecil's amendment would provide a better way to do it. And all of us want to work towards highway safety. I believe this bill, I spoke to the Lieutenant Governor once about the bill. I believe it came out of a tragic, terrible situation that occurred on the Baltimore Beltway. That's not what we're talking about with this amendment. That situation, those enhanced fines and penalties, they would absolutely stay in effect because obviously those gentlemen who were killed that day, they were on the work zone and they should get the highest level of protection possible. But we shouldn't be fining and penalizing our folks for I rode by some orange cones in the middle of the night that the work crew didn't pick up. And that's the reason that I would hope that the body would consider the amendment. Thank you.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Body, I'd still ask you to resist this amendment. We're talking about speeding. We're talking about breaking the law. So for the minority leader, I would recommend that you stay within the speed limit, and you are not going to get tagged unless you are going over 12 miles an hour over the speed limit. Thank you.
Any other further debate? Maker of the motion.
Yeah, I would just say move the amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
On the amendment, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Roll call.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will take the call. The amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Are you up or are you down?
Yes, sorry, Madam Speaker. I have questions for the floor leader. I don't have an amendment. That's why I sat back down.
Question. Floor leader. Go ahead.
Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thanks for your time for these questions. These are, I'm going to put my appropriations hat on and ask a couple of questions around how the structure was and the goals of this bill. So I guess the first question I have is the primary purpose of this bill to increase safety for work zone employees?
The primary goal of this bill is to increase safety in work zones.
Okay, fair. That's fair. And so the next question I have then is, in terms of the revenues that are received from the state, the increased revenues coming from the state, we are in the Appropriations Committee reviewing a trauma bill to increase funding for the trauma deficit that we have. And so when I think about public safety and what these revenues are being used for, is my understanding of the bill is that it's for predominantly the Transportation Trust Fund, and we are likely going to be increasing registration fees on drivers in Maryland to make up the deficit in the trauma fund, and that entire deficit increase can effectively come from the revenues that are coming from this change. So what was the decision to make this go to the Transportation Trust Fund instead of the trauma fund?
Floor leader.
Madam Speaker.
Committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That's actually how the bill came in from the Lieutenant Governor. She has some of the money goes to Maryland State Police for some specified purposes. The remainder she had going to the Transportation Trust Fund for highway safety. We did narrowly expand that to allow it to also go to system preservation, which is obviously very closely tied with safety.
Okay, so basically it was just so we want to confirm, so it was basically just how the bill came in, and you narrowed the scope, and there was really no dialogue on it being used for the trauma fund at all?
I don't recall any conversation about using it for the very legitimate needs you're raising for trauma funding and the other things the EMS surcharge supports.
Okay, I appreciate that that answer. I want to make sure I'm sticking to the rules here and questions and not opining. So similar question to that. So or a little different, but we passed a bill earlier out of this House that mandated or allowed Maryland State Highway Administration to make a 5-mile-an-hour change in speed limit without a traffic study. My understanding of the bill, and if you can confirm, it does not allow for a grace period of fees after one of those changes is made. Is that correct?
Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Are you talking about this bill or the previous bill?
Well, I guess I'm using the information exchange from the previous bill to talk about this bill. So this bill does not allow any grace period after a change in speed limit before those fine increases take place, correct?
So this bill is just focused on, I'm not quite sure I'm following your question, but just in work zones. They're not changing the speed limit, they're enforcing the speed limit. They're two totally different bills.
I totally understand that. So this bill, as I understand it, we've created a grace period over the next couple of months before these increases would take place. Is that correct?
No.
No.
So when the bill goes into effect, it will go from $40 to $80 until the end of the year.
Right.
And then starting 1/1/25, it goes to $250.
Okay. I appreciate the insight there. And so I meant the grace period before it goes to $250. So thank you for the clarification there. I guess my challenge with this is that we as a body for this bill, we as a body are going to authorizing on a different bill the State Highway Administration to make changes to the speed limit zones, including work zones, of at least 5 miles an hour without a traffic study, and then we're going to turn around with this bill and allow us to fine up to $250 without a warning period for that change. Is that correct?
Floor leader.
We can already change speed limits in work zones as it is. So it's separate and apart from the other bill.
But the other bill allows the State Highway Administration to make a change at will for them of 5 miles an hour of difference with no warning, with no study impact. They just are allowed to make the change carte blanche that was passed,
Well, they
which
do-
applies to the work zone. So then now we have the ability to do that, and then it goes from a 12 mile an hour difference to a 7 mile an hour difference before they're getting hit with a potential $250 fine.
Okay, so a couple of things. One, the previous bill didn't say to State Highway, do it willy-nilly, wherever you want, whenever you want. They're lowering the speed limit based on what they know about those roads in those areas. And they do put up flags, they do put up reduced signs, they do put up a lot of notice letting folks know. Separate and apart from that, in work zones, the speed limit is already reduced differently. So they're not going to then drop it another 5 in the speed limit so that they can hopefully tag somebody with a speed zone camera ticket.
Well, so we're not circular. I'll agree to disagree. But I guess just to go back to my original question, or not original question, but the challenge I have with this bill is going to be that the fact that the money is not being used for the purposes of the trauma fund. So, but I appreciate the clarity on that question.
Okay. Is there any further debate or any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Special order calendar number 26. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 627, Election Law, Automatic Voter Registration, State Correctional Facilities. Favor report is amended and adopted.
Recognizing the maker of the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have an amendment at the desk. Amendment 513522/1.
Amendment number 1.
So be considered reading of that amendment.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This bill automatically has a voter registration for those, well, it makes correction facilities an automatic voter registration agency for those released from confinement. And what this amendment does is expand that role to the Department of Natural Resources to allow people applying for boating and hunting licenses to also be automatically included in this so they can be registered to vote as well. Looking forward to the committee's response on this, and hopefully they'll take it as a friendly amendment.
Vice Chair of the committee.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the delegate for sharing this amendment in advance so that we could thoroughly consider it. I also want to thank the delegate for his commitment to expansion of automatic voter registration, which is really critical. There are, unfortunately, a few issues with this amendment. One of the reasons that we chose the Department of Corrections under this bill, in the current version of the bill, to ensure automatic voter registration for those who are being released from the custody of Department of Corrections is that we're able to talk to DOC. And we also know that citizenship data is something that the Department of Corrections has so that we can make sure that people are eligible. I am not sure, and I know the delegate really cares about ensuring that people who are actually eligible, who are citizens of Maryland, are automatically registered. And we don't know if DNR collects that data when someone gets a fishing license and a hunting license. I doubt that citizenship information is actually gathered by DNR. We also don't know the cost of this and the feasibility of the Department of Natural Resources being able to conduct automatic voter registration. So we have to be careful about what agencies we add, making sure they have the proper information and data, and for those reasons, I ask the body to resist this amendment.
Maker of the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm so happy that, I want to thank the committee for taking time to consider this amendment. I'm glad to hear they're really concerned about voter security. I know there's not a voter ID bill that's coming up on the floor, but maybe that could be a possible amendment so we can help secure our elections in the future. And I'm also happy that they're talking about like legal status at the Department of Corrections. And I'm happy that those are the concerns and not the concerns that might think of, there was a study a couple years ago by Ragnar Research, 2018. Ex-felons are 4 times as likely to vote for Democrats than Republicans. So I'm really glad that that's not part of the reason why we're denying this amendment. And as far as like DNR not being able to handle this, the MVA handles this. And if you look at page 2 of the fiscal note, these are all the departments that can handle automatic voter registrations. So if it seems like if we're going to go down this path of automatic voter registration, we should probably be trying to do this and expand it with everyone that interfaces with state government, including those that are seeking hunting and fishing licenses. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
On the amendment, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? No. Roll call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Clerk will take the call. The amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Seeing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will take the call. There being 131 members present, the House is still in session. Calendar of third reading House Bills number 36. Clerk will read first bill.
House Bill 125, Courts, Military Records, Recordation and Inspection.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 125, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 141, Criminal Procedure, Child Victims, Testimony in Child Abuse Cases.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change your vote?
Ma'am, to explain my vote very quickly.
You feel you need to?
Yes, I just want to say I voted against this in committee, but I did get a assurance from the judiciary and the MSBA that the amendments did make it better. So I think this is a great bill, and I'm going to vote in favor.
Okay. Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll. There being 132 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 141, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 172, Department of State Police, Professional Occupations Application Process.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 172, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 212, Vehicle Laws, Noise Abatement Monitoring Systems, Pilot Program.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate?
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing this gentleman from Cecil.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just a few points that I wanted to make on this bill. We had some good second reader discussion. I have some major concerns about this bill. It was brought up during the earlier testimony that this is already law in the books. However, if you dig a little bit deeper, you will find that it was almost never used as an infraction. The reason for that is because, and let's think about this for a second, in order for a police officer to register the decibels that are coming from your vehicle, he would have to follow your vehicle or stand behind it with a meter, and then record on that meter the decibels that are emitting from your vehicle. That would then have to go to court, and that device that they don't have would have to be proven to be certified and accurate. And as a result, this is a law in the books that was never enforced. And reading the fiscal note, what this pilot seeks to do is to move that away from a police officer to a device. And this device, I imagine, would be similar to that as a red light camera. And if that device were triggered, it would take a snapshot of your license plate or ability to identify your vehicle and then send you either a notice or an actual citation for a repair order. The reason that this is flawed, in my opinion, is because should you violate that and get a repair order that you would need to fix, the only way to be in compliance, especially with newer vehicles, would be that you would have to modify or retrofit your factory exhaust device. And in doing so, in many instances, could bring you out of compliance with EPA as well as your emissions inspection. On newer vehicles, tampering with emission devices, tampering with exhaust systems is prohibited. So while you may be able to be in compliance with the noise on the citation that you received, subsequently, if you were to go to VEIP and get your emissions tested, they put the mirror under there, hey, you've modified that factory exhaust. And now we have created what I call the confluence of too much government. You just can't fix it, no matter what you do. So I appreciate the debate on this bill yesterday. I don't believe that this is ready for prime time, and I'll be voting against the bill. Thank you.
No further today. HB 212 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There be 93 votes in the affirmative. House Bill 212, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 245, Department of the Environment, Fees, Penalties, Funding, and Regulation.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Gentleman from Culver.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I do have a couple of questions about the bill with the floor leader.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I have the reprint. I know there's a lot of changes that have been made to the bill. On page 13 of the reprint, it talks about Tier 2 high quality watershed, and then it has a lot of fees, minor projects, minor modifications, and so forth, less than a half an acre, less than a quarter of an acre, and then increasing the fees pretty significantly. What is this for? Like, what would trigger a fee? It's page 13.
These are for wetlands and waterways related projects.
So can you give an example of what that would be? For example, I mean, if you're building like a house.
And any time, for example, with a construction project that there is a disturbance of a wetland, or for example, if you're required to do a wetland mitigation project as a result.
So wetlands mitigation project would be, it would be on someone's private property, and that mitigation project would be, as an example, what would be an example of that? And I actually don't know. I'm really asking to find out.
Well, if a wetland is well, piers would be, if you build a pier, that would be an example of a project that actually has an impact on a wetlands. But for example, if you're doing wetland mitigation, that might be extending or improving a wetland to offset impact on other parts of the wetland, or at another location where there would be construction that impacts a wetland.
If you do something on your private property that impacts a wetland, you would have to apply for this permit. and pay the pretty significantly increased fee. Does that sound right?
Yes, these fees, yes, I mean, this does change the fees that would apply to these types of wetlands, waterways projects. They are scaled based on the size of the project. But yes, this does apply, these fees would apply to those.
And when you have solar farms or an intent to build a solar farm on a property and their wetlands, are they required to follow these same rules?
Hold on. Yes, I believe, Delegate, I cannot say categorically, but I do believe that yes, they would be. I mean, if you're talking about, certainly if you're, the type of, the scale of the solar project depends on whether you need PSC approval or not, but in general, if you're disturbing a wetland, yes.
Because my understanding is that there's been, there's a lot of latitude that's given to those folks with respect to building these facilities, and they're not required, as far as I can tell, in code to submit their projects to MDE when they're building. That's why I'm asking the question, because it seems fair that it should apply to everybody. Also, page 15 deals with what looks like piers. So if you have waterfront property and you have a pier and you want to put a piling in or some sort of structure, pier structure, improvement or removal, lifts, boat lifts and so forth, does that sound about right?
Yes.
Okay. And these fees also have, there are quite a few of them. They've all increased significantly. Is there any reason why the fees have been increased so much?
These fees have not been increased in over a decade. This is about a 30% increase in the fees, and again, reflecting the fact that they have not been increased in over a decade. So just reflecting the increased cost of permitting and any related inspections.
And does House Bill 245 give the Maryland Department of the Environment the full authority to increase fees from this point forward in all these areas outlined in this bill?
There are some in which there are some fees specified under the bill where the department is granted the authority, not required, but given the authority to increase according to CPI. And a subset of those, the department already had that authority.
Is there any trigger in the bill that if there is a desire by this General Assembly at some point, whether this year or in the future, that the General Assembly decides to transfer the monies into the general fund, even though in the bill I know it says that it's in a special fund, but if they try to do that, that there's some way to stop that? I mean, you see what I'm saying? I mean, the argument is that you're giving them this authority, the MDE, this authority to set fees, increase fees indefinitely in a lot of areas, and that somehow it's protected, but since it's not a constitutional protection, we know how that works here.
These are special funds that are set up, so Delegate, the rules would apply to these funds as same rules as apply to other special funds.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you. Madam Speaker, on the bill.
On the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So during the second term of the O'Malley administration, Maryland went through some pretty significant budget deficits. And in Calvert County, we received quite a few concerns from constituents because MDE was going on people's property without notice and inspecting piers that had been permitted years before and built years before. So the pier had been built years before, it had been built years before, it was in operation for years, and they were randomly showing up on people's property and walking on their piers to count how many pilings, how long the pier was, how wide the pier was. They were literally measuring the pier And they're also measuring and counting the number of lifts on the pier, even though the permit had long since been closed out. And I know this because I helped quite a few constituents, and MDE was an agency that was literally out of control. It was out of control because their fix for people when they found out the slightest little change from the plans that were submitted, and if you know anything about pier building, and I don't, I know enough to know that it's not that precise. If your pier was just 2 inches too wide, and this happened in a couple of cases, and 2 inches too long, MDE came in and said, you're in violation, here's the violation order, and now you have to fix this, make the pier smaller, or pay us. It was all about a shakedown. It was a financial shakedown from a state that never gets enough money from its citizens. And they attacked rural Maryland like I've never seen that happen before, and I witnessed it because I helped constituent after constituent after constituent on this issue. And now here we are with House Bill 245, doubling down and giving MDE even more authority during the same kind of downturn in Maryland's economy, giving MDE the same amount of authority to go ahead and shake down the citizens of Maryland. That's practically what this does when we, the General Assembly, yield so much power to a government agency, and that is a mistake. That is a mistake. That should never happen. So for all those reasons, Madam Speaker, I'm voting against this bill. Thank you.
Gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Could the floor leader rise on the question related to the on-site septics?
Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Sure.
So we've had many discussions over the years about the Eastern Shore, and I live in Wicomico County, some of the difficulties of getting on-site septic systems approved. So one of the main concerns that I think many of my colleagues on the shore have is that we would like to see more expedient processing if there is a review and then a comment period and back and forth, that happen faster. Normally when a septic system fails, time is of the essence, and I worry a great deal about the fact that we should be doing more to facilitate and make these things happen. Obviously there's some difficulties with personnel, having enough people, being able to process these. Certainly when we pass bills that advance mandates and responsibilities, make it more difficult, add additional regulations, that sometimes that just means more time. So my question on the bill is that if I understand it correctly, there is a clean water fund. So we're not to get into a deep conversation about the fees and what we're doing, but it seems like to me there's a place where we're going to potentially raise the fees and then it goes to a clean water fund. My question would be, if we're going to raise the fees, why don't we put it toward the administration of these departments to more quickly get through the permitting process to help citizens?
Floor leader.
Well, Delegate, I guess any fees with respect to inspection and oversight of waterways would go to the actual work that MDE does with respect to responding to complaints of pollution of those waterways and other regulations. With respect to the authority that's granted to MDE under this bill for wells and septic permits, as you know, that authority is delegated to localities, typically county health departments. This, in House Bill 245, with respect to wells and septics, right now, only if that authority for some reason is not being implemented by the localities and MDE has to take it back for that jurisdiction, would then MDE be enabled to charge a fee for well and septic permit applications. The intention is not to automatically default them back, that authority back to MDE, but in those cases, MDE could set a fee. And Delegate, you may be pleased to hear that there is a separate bill working its way through the committee which would require localities with septic and well authorization to set a schedule for review of applications.
I look forward to supporting that bill. So the only question I had really went to this Maryland Clean Water Fund, because if we're raising fees because we're handling the process, well, the bill says when the department withdraws the authority delegated under this section to process and issue on-site sewage disposal permits or individual well construction permits, I guess what I'm saying is, why would we take that fee and then send it to the Maryland Clean Water Fund, which to me, I would ask, well, what is the Maryland Clean Water Fund? But really, I don't need that answer. I'm just trying to figure out, why aren't we taking monies and trying to help facilitate, well, actually, maybe that other bill.
I'm sorry, Delegate, I missed the last part of your question.
Why are we sending the fees to a fund and not making it monies that help the department more quickly administer the processing of permits?
Delegate, I would say because the fund, the Clean Water Fund, is for program administration in those cases where MD does have to get involved with.
Thank you, Floor Leader. Madam Speaker, I would just say that on the Eastern Shore, I do look forward to supporting the other bill he's talking about, but this is a major complaint coming from constituents. If we're raising fees, I think there needs to be a return on investment from those that are asking for permits for on-site septic replacement. These septics, when they fail, Madam Speaker, are time of the essence, and there is, let me just be blunt, a known difficulty with the departments, with personnel not having enough resources to do this quick enough, and I think the monies would be better spent elsewhere, not in getting into an argument about the fees, but that's my personal opinion, and I'll be voting against the bill.
Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 96 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 245, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 249, Public Safety Statewide DNA Database System, DNA Collection and Penalties, alterations.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 249, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker, vote change on House Bill 212 to green.
Okay. Calendar of third reading House Bills number 37. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 549, Statute of Limitation, Prosecution or Enforcement of Local Consumer Protection Codes.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 549, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 609, Education, Public Libraries, Collective Bargaining, Library Workers Empowerment Act.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 100 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 609, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 664, Court Personnel, Protection of Personal Information, Judge Andrew F. Wilkinson, Judicial Security Act.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 664, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 702, Wage and Hour Law, Minor League Baseball Players Exemption.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 125 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 702, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House 1127, sexual assault forensic examinations conducted through telehealth, reimbursement, and study.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded the vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1127, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, House Bills number 38. Clerk, read the first bill.
House Bill 259, District Court traffic cases, surcharges.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 259, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 324, Maryland Uniform Transfers to Minors Act, transfers as custodian for the benefit of a minor, authorization of court.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 324, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 473, Higher Education, Undocumented Students, Out-of-State Tuition Exemption Eligibility.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 96 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 473, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 476, Criminal Procedure, Forensic Genealogical DNA Analysis and Search, applicability for deceased and missing individuals.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 476, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 498, Real Property Access to Counsel in Evictions Program, mandated reports.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 498, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. End of session. We had good debate today. Thank you. And that ends the work at the desk. Committee announcements. Appropriations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Appropriations Committee will have a voting session at 12:45. Thank you.
Judiciary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, subcommittee chairs will have a meeting at 12:45 and then a voting session at 1:30.
Environment and Transportation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The House Environment and Transportation Committee will meet for bill hearings at 1 p.m. in the committee room.
Ways and Means.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Ways and Means Committee will not meet today, but we will be meeting on Monday at 11 a.m. for bill hearings.
Economic Matters.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The House Economic Matters Committee will not be meeting, but I need my subcommittee chairs directly after the floor. And we will be meeting at on Monday at 1 p.m. for bill hearings. 1 p.m. on Monday. Thank you.
Health and Government Operations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon. The Health and Government Operations Committee will be voting immediately after session, and then immediately after voting, we will be having bill hearings. And please listen to announcements because the subcommittees are meeting on Monday morning. Thank you.
Any subcommittee announcements? Health occupations.
Health
Madam
occupation.
Chair, I'm sorry. Madam Speaker, I'm sorry. I apologize. The Rules Committee has a meeting on
Rules.
Monday.
Excuse me?
Rules Committee.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, the Rules Committee will be having another public hearing on Monday at 1 o'clock in the same place in the E&T Committee room. 1 o'clock Monday for the Rules Committee public hearing on several bills. Thank you.
Health occupations.
Health Occupations Subcommittee will meet Monday virtually at noon.
Real property.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Housing and Real Property Subcommittee will meet today at 4 p.m. via Zoom and Monday at 5 p.m. via Zoom. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Public health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Public Health and Minority Health Disparities Subcommittee will be meeting Monday at 10:30 on Zoom, and the Government Ops Subcommittee will be meeting on Monday at 9 a.m. on Zoom.
Local government.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Local Government Subcommittee of E&T will meet on Monday at 4 p.m. on Zoom.
Alcoholic beverages.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Alcohol Subcommittee will be meeting this afternoon at 1 p.m. in the Economic Matters room.
Education.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Education Subcommittee of Ways and Means will be meeting at 3 p.m. today. Get in your cars and drive with all legal alacrity and watch the work zones, okay? See you there.
Revenues.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Revenue Subcommittee will be meeting virtually at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Thank you.
Capital budget.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The Capital Budget Subcommittee and Appropriations will be meeting on Monday at 3 p.m. in the Appropriations Committee room.
Yeah. Which one is she? I'm trying to figure it. Wait a minute. Family law.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. The Family Law and Juvenile Law Subcommittee will be meeting on Monday at 3 p.m. virtually.
Any other subcommittee? Okay. Any delegation announcements? Any caucus announcements? Okay. Any personal? Fire and EMS.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Best Dressed Caucus, the Fire EMS Caucus, will be meeting on Monday at 2 p.m. in the Senate building and on Zoom. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay. Any other caucus announcements? Okay. Any personal or guest announcements? Yes. General Lady from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to use the delegate's name.
Permission granted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On behalf of Delegate Stephanie Smith and I, we are proud to welcome legislative fellows from our alma mater, the University of Delaware. These students are passionate about state government and are working in the Delaware General Assembly in committees and on legislation. Please join me in welcoming these civic leaders to Maryland. Please stand.
Any other personal or guest announcements? General Lady from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, today I'm being shadowed by a high school student from my district, Janani Krishnamurthy, and she's up in the gallery if you can help to welcome her.
And General Lady from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to recognize a group of fabulous young ladies as part of the International Women's Day, which is today for all us fabulous women, including our speaker. our fearless leaders. I just want to recognize these women from the community today who are here to kind of lobby and come in and knock on doors and just welcome them if they come on by, and they're from Chispa. These are community advocates on behalf of the League of Conservation Voters. So bienvenidos todas las mujeres en el Día Internacional de la Mujer. Thank you so much.
Very welcome. Pages. Recognizing the protocol chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Oh, what a wonderful week we've had. Our pages, I want you to know you did a fantastic job today. Don't you think so, delegates? You took care of all your delegates, and today is Friday. And I want you to have a nice weekend. But when I'm getting ready to announce you for the final time, maybe some of y'all might be back next week or not. But this week, I'm going to announce your name. Y'all know the drill. You ready? Okay. First up, Nikolai Brody Jr., Baltimore County District 6, Overleaf High School. Ezra Burke, Wacomie Comico. Doesn't matter, cornbread. Thank you. District 37A, Parkside High School. Chloe Gautiera, Hartford County District 35A, Hardy Grace High School. Sidney Gunther, Charles County, District 28, St. Charles High School. William O'Donnell, Talbot County, District 37, B, Easton High School. Margaret Rothgap, Calvert County, District 27B, Northern High School. Aaron Robinson, Baltimore City, District 40, Mervo Technical High School. Jackson Taylor, Montgomery County, District 19, Rockville High School. And finally, Julian Zinnerman, Washington County, District 2A, Boonsboro High School. Oh, what a wonderful week. Thank you, my wonderful sunshines. See you next week. You can be excused. Madam Speaker, as
Yes.
protocol chair, I just wanted to let you know we're almost there. I cannot wait to stand up to tell you we got this. So all the ones, and it's about 27 of you nice, wonderful delegates, please, I'm still waiting for you. And before I knock on your door, come see me in room 205. You got that? And I want you to have a nice weekend. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Young lady from Prince.
Madam Speaker, I just wanted to clarify some information about the Speaker Society dinner. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that it's actually March the 20th. I did make a mistake yesterday, and it is March the 20th, and it is only for current and former members of the House of Delegates. Only current and former members of the House of Delegates. You should start receiving your invitations, and I hope that you all will join us that evening. Thank you very much.
All right, welcome. Anything else? Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? The House is still in session. Clerk will take the roll. 134 members present. The House is still in session, recognizing the minority. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stands recessed until Monday, March 11th at 8 p.m., legislative date February 29th.